Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming in. Today we're having Alex with his talk, What to Expect When You're Expecting AI. In this talk, Alex will be going through the process and talks on building his tool called Navi, which is a really cool tool that I have talked about with him. Uh, gonna he's gonna do amazing things with it. I'm sure of that. So I hand it to you, Alex.
Hi guys. So I'm Alex. I run it's actually a company now, Saint Security Group LLC or SSG. Oh, this is actually Mate. Um, just to get that out of the way. Sorry, I didn't realize that. Anyway, yeah, I've been developing Navi at least in my head for close to 18 years now. It's been a very long process for me. It started out as like simple. What's the best way to put it? So it started out as like very simple, like if then or if else statements, and the original version was actually coded in Java back whenever I was running Android. But that's another story for another day. But it was kind of silly back then, just a little like play at AI because some 15 years ago we didn't have what we have now. Like we were just starting to see things like, actually it wasn't even 15 years ago, it was closer to 10. We were just starting to see things like Google Now and Siri pop up. So I got really intrigued by these, mixed with my fascination with video games at the time. So way back whenever I was younger, my grandmother actually got me a copy of Mega Man Battle Network 3, and I was fascinated with the AI that was presented in those games. So going a little bit into detail about that, we had what were called net navies, which is where Navi gets its namesake from. It's not Legend of Zelda. Sorry to disappoint. Uh, so NetNavies basically work the same way that Siri and Google Assistant, I guess it's actually called, worked for the smart devices in that series. And it was kind of cool seeing this like prediction of the future almost. But I noticed our AIs that we have today, with the exception of GPT, of course, and probably a few others, but GPT is the one that's making news everywhere. So I realized that these didn't have a specific gearing towards what I like to do. So I'm very passionate about cybersecurity, as anybody in here will tell you. As my girlfriend will tell you, I'm obsessed with it. Shout out to Sam if she sees this. So I got to thinking, what if I could build an AI that was geared towards cybersecurity? Now, I don't know anything about building AI models. However, I have a very close friend, Fox, who sat down right around the time I started working on Navi again. And he had started working on his own AI model, the Echo framework that we call it now. Well, yeah, that we call it. And I was sitting there playing with GPT because the new original version of Navi was very GPT centric. And I got to thinking, what if we could implement our own model in this? And of course, we had other people who were interested in it at the time. We'll get into our endorser here soon. Well, our primary endorser. It got to the point that we were talking with this endorser. You know what? I'm just going to go into it now. We partnered with CSI Linux a little while back. Navi is going to be in CSI Linux almost on an like Alexa basis. Thank God it didn't fire up. Um, so the primary thing with CSI was we couldn't really put GPT into Navi because of the need for an API key in order to run GPT. So that kind of created a little bit of a hindrance. So I reached out to Fox and I realized, hey, he's working on this model. What if we could team up? And it was then I realized, after plugging Echo into Navi, what Navi actually was. At the time, I'd been touting Navi as being a AI in and of itself, but it wasn't. It was an interface for command line based AI chatbots. So together with Fox, we kind of clunked our heads together and came up with this thing, this AI plus interface. So that's actually what I'm showing off today. I'm going to be primarily showing off the interface side of it, but there are probably a few questions at this point now that I can answer about the Echo framework. I'm not going to claim to be an expert in it because that's not my side of the development. But if there's something I can answer, I will. So jumping right in, we have Navi, and we also now have, these aren't random, these are trained in responses. So you kind of get Navi, well, you do get Navi, and you don't really get too much to it. You just get a input with the prompt for help and stop at the top. So help brings us up to what we can actually do with Navi. Yes, I do have GPT integrated into this version as a separate command. So let's see. Can you tell me about, let's go with Nmap. Just for the giggles of it, because that's actually going to be relevant here soon. So of course GPT does this thing, and it spits out your information. So of course Nmap is a free open source network scanner, yada yada yada. Continuing down the list, I'm going to go into Recon for right now. Recon was actually the first script that I had built for Navi. And it's kind of what set it up and set it apart. Thank you. So Recon was the first actual script that I put into Navi. And what it does is it gives you the ability to kind of, well, not even kind of, it just straight up gives you the ability to have a guided walkthrough of Nmap. So let's go with example.com. And of course you set up your flags that you want, or your arguments rather. And then you see where you want to save it. So I'm going to save mine to a cases folder. And I'm going to name it example report. And of course, Navi will walk you through the process of what it's doing. Now, I also included a ping scan in there. I forgot to mention. Sorry. This is one of those moments where I need to include like a loading bar or something into it because it's kind of like, oh, it halted, but then it does the thing.
One question that comes to mind right now. There are hosts that block ping scans. Is Navi smart enough to determine if a host is live, even though it doesn't reply to pings? For example, if with that SB scan version scan and what the host didn't reply, it will ask you, "Hey, I didn't receive a reply. This ping. Do I continue scanning or not?"
It is not intelligent enough for that just yet, but that is something I'm definitely going to consider. Actually, you know what? I am going to integrate that. Thanks for the idea.
Yeah.
So
Because in the pentest world, it is pretty common that hosts don't reply to pings, so we always have to disable the pings for Nmap. That way, Nmap doesn't just shoot down the scan.
That's actually something I need to integrate. Thank you for that. Get new ideas every day. I need to write that down. Hold on. No. I'll write it down after the fact.
I'll send you a DM. Don't worry.
Thank you. Hard hands. um, so once the actual recon phase is complete, it'll go, do you want to see the report that it made? So the report is realistically just the output of the ping scan and nmap. And of course, it'll say you can view this report anytime at the location that you said. But one of the things that CSI was interested in was the ability to export reports as PDFs. So, of course, we went about integrating. Of course, it says it's not a valid option, so that's an issue I need to work on. But when we come in here, bit H, somewhere in here is .navi. There you are. We have the cases folder and the PDF output of the scan. That was actually one of the things I was really proud of whenever I was just getting started, because whenever I first thought about it, I was like, oh, this is such a task. Like, how am I going to do this? And it kind of just came to me, like a lot of things do. So I sat into it, and within a day, I had the full report done. By full report, I mean it's still only these two things, but, you know, over time I intend to add more to the recon script. Thinking, actually, I don't quite have an example off the top of my head that I can put into it, but I definitely want to expand upon it and add more to it. The original version of the recon script actually had who is as well, but it got to be like extensive. So one of the things I need to do is figure out how to strictly parse like relevant data and not like all the legal mumbo jumbo that it puts at the bottom. But continuing on. So as you can see, anytime you run a command, it's always got like a quip at the end. So we're actually going to clear. I love the sass that this thing has. So type in help again, because sometimes I don't remember my own commands. Mac changer I'm actually not going to go into right now because there's a little bit of a glitch into it, so I'm not going to futz with that. I will bring up credit though. Actually, no, we'll save that for the end. Let's go to VBuster. VBuster is actually another play on the whole Mega Man Battle Network series, because the primary objective of it is to eliminate viruses. So they call it virus busting, hence VBuster. This one is actually powered by ClamAV, which I'm pretty proud of having integrated. But we're going to scan SSG Cryptex, which is another one of my tools. One of my group's tools, rather. Do we want to save the report? I'm going to say no this time. So as you can see, anytime you initiate a command, Navi will literally walk you through it. It'll have little like affirmative statements here and there. So at the bottom we see understood, starting scan now. And this is another segment where I could probably afford to have a loading bar. So I'm just going to let Navi do its thing. And eventually, like so, it'll pop up with scan results. So I'm happy to say Cryptex is not infected, as input here. Going in, we're going to clear screen again because I like having a clean screen. Oh, what else can I pop in here? I do have a very rudimentary CLI pass-through. So just stuff like that. That needs a little bit of work, but it is something that I'm glad I got integrated. So, embarrassingly enough, I didn't realize that I didn't have a video player installed because my system's hyper minimal. And guess what? I'm not using Arch. So, Leon, you're going to be my video player for today. I'd actually been I'd actually been working on a new install script for Navi. I'm calling it the Jack-in script, which, of course, is another statement to the Mega Man series. One of the things I'm really proud of with this is, as we can see, it looks like Navi is actually typing to you. Adds a tiny bit of like a story element to it. I need to work on furthering that out. And then it actually unifies all three of Cryptex's, Cryptex. It unifies all three of Navi's installation processes. So before, one of the things people were saying was, hey, this is difficult to install. So I took the time out and I made this script, and I'm really, really, really proud of it. Namely because, of course, it's got that element that it looks like Navi is typing to you, similar to, the whole follow the white rabbit scene in the Matrix. So here we're actually going to get into training, which this is about the only part of Echo that I actually know too much about, or not even too much about, but know a little bit about. So, of course, epochs, whenever it comes to training, means how many cycles. And we have two different training models that we can use. We have SGD and Atom. Don't ask me off the top of the head what they mean. I think Atom is just significantly faster than SGD, and it also provides higher accuracy. So as we can see, it's gone through the process, and as we can see, the numbers are really good. So what this calculates out to, now I don't remember the calculations off the top of my head, but we're looking at around 4 to 5% loss, which is loss of overall training data, and an accuracy of what looks like between 96 and I see a couple of 99s in there. And whenever it's all said and done, it pops up and it goes, oh wow, I feel smarter. But what's cool is it actually uses the system's, or rather the username of the currently installed, or currently logged in user. So that was just a nice little fun addition that I added that was also highly functional and also provides just a little bit more uniqueness to what Navi can and can't do. So there we go. Proof positive that it works. Fresh install. So one of the things that I get asked frequently is, how do you come up with these things? Well, Navi just answered that for me. Great AI gets hammered down to the three ends: nuance, network, and Navi. Okay, maybe not the last part. But what it comes down to is I often ask myself a question. At the start of any type of development cycle, it gets hammered down to one question: can I? And the answer almost always is yes. Something that I learned over many years doing development is that if it can be thought of, it can be made. Now, you could argue that, we don't have, it took us so long to get AI. And even at that, we don't have true AI in the sense of where I personally want Navi to be, which is the ability to literally have a cohesive conversation with it while also being able to help provide information on whatever you're trying to do. But it's always can I? Can I? Can I? Can I? So I guess the moral of this story is you can think it, you can dream it, you can do it. Navi started out as a simple if else. Here you go. I think the very, very, very first version, I had it set up that it was like, I'd tell it, hey, I'm not feeling too good today. And it would just grab a random cat video off of YouTube and send me the link. You know, we're developers. We love our kittens. And our coffee. I should have had it set up that it can order Starbucks for me. Maybe next time. Speaking of that, that's actually where the concept for this version of Navi came from in the whole recon script. So I got to thinking one day it would be cool to have this set up in a way that I could look at my computer and go, hey, Navi, can you look into XYZ website for me and give me an extensive workup? And then it would say, sure. And I could walk away, go to Starbucks, get my latte, come back, and have an actionable recon report to work with. And that was where the idea for recon came from. It was also heavily influenced by World of Haiku, actually. There's a level in that in which one of the AIs actually goes out and does basically the Nmap recon for you ahead of time. And it goes, hey, by the way, there's a port open on XYZ. You should take a look at it. And I was like, wow, it would be awesome if I could do that too. So it's kind of a mixture of both of those elements into what I did with recon. So I want to kind of get into like future plans for Navi. Of course, working with CSI Linux, a lot of Navi's development is heavily influenced by that, which is great because it provides me with like guidelines of what needs to be done. And I don't just let my brain go nuts on, hey, I could do this, hey, I could do that, hey, I could do the next thing. Don't get me wrong, I'm still writing down all those ideas. I want to start including the ability to have users submit scripts that they write that then get turned into help options. Actually, yeah. So right now I'm calling it the Navi user repo, or NUR, as it were. And that's kind of gonna add like an almost like customizable Metasploity idea to it, which I'm really excited about, but that's going to take a little bit of work to get to, but we'll get there. Don't worry about it. Other things include proper personality modules. So it's great that I have Navi's got that wit and sarcasm that I like, but in terms of, say, CSI Linux, we're going to need to be more professional. So there should be like the option to kind of hot swap what kind of personality you want Navi to have. So that's another thing that's in the pipeline. Of course, I need to add a cheesy jokes module because, let's face it, all good AI needs cheesy jokes. Actually, hold on. Let's see. We do have some cheesy jokes. Wow. I like that one.
Do you have AI jokes though?
No, not yet. But we'll get there. We'll get there. right now, the closest thing that I have to AI jokes is whenever Navi pops up saying something about itself. But another couple things I want to work on, I do want to have this integrated as like a system service. So maybe a potential like taskbar thing that you can just click on and it pops up like, "Hey, here I am." Over time, I want to get the voice command integration done and have it be able to talk back. Okay, don't mind that. Um, so yeah, that's the general gist of what we got, where we're going. Um, like I said, CSI has been a huge resource for me, both in terms of like creativity and guidelines. So that's amazing. Thank you, Jeremy, once again, for the amazing opportunity to work with you and for you, technically. Fox, thank you, thank you so much for building the Echo framework. And I really look forward to seeing where this goes.
Oh, that's
Uh,
amazing. Does anyone has any questions about Navi?
yeah, by all means.
You mute yourself or use the chat.
I will pop open the chat here.
Hey, question. Oh wait, I see someone typing. Oh, no questions here. Thank you all for coming here.
Yeah,
Oh,
and above all, I wanna thank Raices for giving me a chance to talk about this. So thank you guys. I'm glad I could be here. I'm glad I could present.
yeah, thank you everyone. This was Alex with his talk, What to Expect When You Are Expecting AI.